Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS value plays for this week's US Open. We've got another major, which means we've got to save some salary to spend up for an extra stud or two. Have the world's best team it up, and anytime you get US Open, long, rough, firm and fast kind of conditions, usually that cream rises to the top. So going out there, doing this dumpster diving, trying to uncover a few of those diamonds is going to be a little bit more difficult, but lucky for you, I've got you covered here with 4 players priced $8,000 and below that I'll be playing in plenty of my PGA DFS lineups this week. So a bunch to get into. Let's go ahead and get this thing rocking. First up this week, we've got Sahith Theegala, who I took last week, didn't have the ceiling performance I was looking for, but surprised me, and it was at a track that really didn't fit his game. What I love about LA Country Club, what I love about the setup this week is that it's wide open off the tee. While you can't completely spray it, there are still hazards to be had, particularly that barranca, some of the wooded areas that you can lose golf balls in. If he keeps it in play, it's a perfect track for him from fairway in, and with 55 to 60 yard wide fairways, as long as he's not launching it all over earth, right? As long as he can kind of keep it in play, I think he's going to be able to lean into that. So first off, approach play has been there for Sahith, right? You look at the last 36 rounds, and it is very impressive the kind of stats he's been posting. You can see here, gaining in every category but off the tee, which of course, right, is his main bugaboo out there. And if we zoom in a little bit, it holds up, right? It's not just a long-term thing. Everything but the off the tee play has really been world-class for Sahith. Is getting much more consistent with the irons, is pretty much gaining with those every single week, and every once in a while mixing in something like a 4 or 5 shots gained performance. And that combined with his electric putter is when he vaults himself into contention. It's about finding him at a track where the off the tee play isn't going to kill him, and while it still can, it's well within his range of outcomes, right? To spray it off the tee, eject himself from the weekend here. He's from the area, he's capable of locking in, and of late really hasn't been getting those top end finishes out of it, right? It's been a T38, a T58, a T40, a T56. So maybe people are getting a little bit old of playing Sahith, but even without his best stuff, right, he's just grinding out cuts, right? As a rookie, a lot of these performances would have been missed cuts out there for him. Would have looked a lot uglier on his track record. Now, because he's a much better player than what he was in 2022, his floor has been raised. So I think along with that floor, we have a much higher ceiling with Sahith Theegala at this stage as well. And we really just need him to get to a course where that off the tee play isn't going to kill him, and then hope we get one of those spike weeks with the irons. So I think we have the recipe for him to go out there and have that big week. It's far from a guarantee he will get some ownership, but maybe it's the hometown narrative thing, right? Maybe I'm just a sucker for playing Sahith because he's an absolutely likable character, one of the best guys on the PGA Tour. But at that price tag, given his pedigree this year, right? The guy doesn't miss many cuts here this season. I'm going to have to be on him. We also got Rickie Fowler, another chalky piece, another fan favorite that I can almost guarantee you is going to be chalky this week too. But at $7,500, he is just way too cheap, right? You put Sahith, you put somebody like Rickie Fowler into your lineup, not only are you saving salary, but you're really getting the same kind of pedigree as a lot of these 8K players, right? Like a Sam Burns, Cam Young, Tommy Fleetwood, especially like the Corey Connors, Tom Kims of the world. These players, I would argue, are better, or at the very worst, right, on the same level as a lot of those other guys. So you're getting the salary discount here, but also a player who's been in ridiculous form, right? We take a look at Rickie Fowler, T9, T6 finish, does have a missed cut in there, but another T14 before that. So the guy's just going out there, not only getting into the weekend, but is competing at that. And it wouldn't surprise me if go to Rickie Fowler were to pick up a real big win soon. Now, I think a major championship might be pushing it a little bit, right? For him to break through at one of these kind of fields might be a little bit too much. But in DFS, we don't need a win, right? We might not even need a top 5. A top 10, a top 15 might be enough at his price tag, particularly if you can go out there and make a bunch of birdies. And one thing I like, the bent grass numbers, they've been solid. The shots gained, whether you look at the last 12 or last 36, is ridiculous, right? Tee to green has been one of the best players in the world. You take a look at the last 36 rounds, it's held up, right? All 4 categories are a huge plus for Rickie Fowler. Just kind of looks like the 3-4 years ago, Rickie Fowler that would win the Players Championship, that would go out there, compete almost week in and week out on the PGA Tour. He's a well-rounded player and pretty much built for major championships. He had that one year where he finished top 10 in every single major. That hasn't been done since then. He's literally his game's perfect for these majors, right? He gains across all 4 categories, and I think LACC is one of the courses that's even going to further that impact, right? It's going to make that even more obvious that you have to be a gainer across all 4 categories. So I like that for Ricky. Let's see. The event history, if you take a look at U.S. Opens over the last few years, this is worth noting too. You can see he hasn't played in the last 2 because he hasn't qualified. But before that was a consistent cut maker. Sahith has only played in 1 U.S. Open himself, did miss the cut his first time, so doesn't have that much experience. I wish that he had a little bit more. I don't think he's going to be great at most U.S. Open setups, truth be told. A lot of that is because of that off the tee play, right? That he tends to lose off the tee in most golf tournaments. But this might be the one exception for both a Sahith and a Ricky Fowler, honestly, right? Ricky, not the best off the tee, right? Of these shots gained categories, right? His weakest is off the tee, albeit still a slight gainer there. We catch him at LACC, a course that I think off the tee plays de-emphasized. That is going to be huge for his chances. Before we hop into our last 2 plays, I'll remind you, check out my Patreon for access to all of my plays, all of the projections that you see blacked out on the screen here. You can download them, use them in your own analysis, whether it's for optimizers, right? Copy and pasting projections. You've got all the shots gained on here, event history, recent form, everything you need to go out there, make your DFS picks and your outright bets, all in one place, one easy to access sheet that is made for you every single Monday. So check that out. We also got our showdown content on there too that I post for rounds 2 through 4. Prop content for all 4 rounds. Already have a bunch of props up for Underdog and prize picks for this week. So check that out all down below in the link of the description. Next up, we've got Cameron Davis, $7,200. So starting to get a little bit cheaper here. Our last play will be in the 6K range. But what I like about Cam Davis is it's a wide open course off the tee. I hit him for an outright at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, and the main reasoning for playing Cam Davis is, except for driving accuracy, he's one of the better players on tour, right? He's pretty decent with the irons, maybe not so consistent there, but is capable of gaining. Around the green is a lot better than most people would expect. He's an Aussie. He shows that sand save ability, but also pretty good out of deep rough around the green. And the putter, particularly on bent grass, which over there at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, it was also bent grass greens. That was another reason I really liked them there, is the type of surface that we're getting at LACC. So I think there's a few crossover things to look at. The recent form has been there too, right? Pretty much gaining across all 4 categories. Slight loser on approach and around the green, but I'm not all that worried about that. You look at the last 36 rounds, so try and zoom it out a little bit, right? Make a larger sample size. You can see it's very similar, right? Gains off the tee, right around a neutral with the approach play and around the green, and a slight loser with the putter, which is what has held him back. That's why he hasn't been very consistent. When Cameron Davis is capable of spiking that hot putter is usually when we get him into contention, because from tee to green, he's going to be stout. Off the tee, right, though he's not accurate, he does gain a ton of strokes because of how long he is off the tee. So I like the course fit, and compared to a lot of the other guys in this range, he has the unique ability to actually finish top 5, top 10. There are a few other players here I would lump into that same kind of mold, but there's plenty that I would lump out of that mold, right? Guys that I think might make the cut, right? Might be able to finish top 25, but when they go out there, they have their best stuff, aren't really going to compete in this kind of field. Cameron Davis, on the other hand, has that top end ceiling. He has the firepower to go out there, keep up with some of the big boys when he's playing well, which is why I find him attractive for these large field contests, right? Most of my content here, mostly catered towards people that are playing large field GPPs. The $5 GPP, the big main $20 GPP, sometimes it's $25 given the week out there, is the type of contest that I think Cameron Davis is especially suited for. So keep that in mind. A little bit volatile there, but along with that volatility comes the kind of upside we're looking for in those kind of builds. And our last play we're getting to here is a little bit more consistent, I would say, which is ironic given the fact that he's $6,800 and so cheap here. But Kirk Kirayama, right? Another guy who kind of sprays it off the tee. If you can't tell, right, that's kind of a trend that I'm going for here. And it's not to say that you can't get into trouble, right? I'm going to probably get a lot of pushback on that. It's just that I've heard from a few players already on site, talking about how, yeah, it's super wide off the tee. Sure, the fairways maybe don't play as wide as they truly are because of some of the undulation on them, but you're still going to hit almost every fairway, right? You're still probably going to hit because there's 5 par 3s on site, so there's only 13 fairways to hit. I assume the fairway average is at least like 8.5, 9 fairways, right? So more often than not, including those 5 tee boxes, right, you get to hit off of for the par 3s, you're going to have a lot of irons out of the fairway. And when Kirk Kirayama can pretty much just go from fairway and in, he's an absolute stud, right? We take a look at the last 12 rounds, which haven't even been good for him. He has not been good of late. He's still gaining a ton of strokes on approach, a ton of strokes with the putter. We zoom out a little bit more. I think it's a little bit more fair for him in terms of the sample size, right? Still gaining with the approach play, still gaining with the putter, not hemorrhaging as much around the green, which he's actually a skilled around the green player. So that little bit of a, I'd say, slump that he's been in over the last 2-3 events, maybe a little bit of an aberration. I don't know how much we should worry about it. The off the tee play, though, that's going to come around, right? Kirk can hit it a long way. He can shape it in both directions if he needs to. And we've seen him at courses with really difficult around the green conditions thrive before, right? So just think of the API, right? Went out there, got his first ever tour win against all of these big guys, I guess without the live guys, right, involved in that golf tournament, and was able to get the job done. You don't need anything close to that at $6,800. We're really looking for a top 15, maybe a top 20. He clearly has that upside, and kind of like a Cam Davis, when Kirk Kirayama is firing on all cylinders, I don't doubt him to go out there, finish top 10, maybe even crack the top 5 in this kind of field. You take a look at the recent form, right? He broke through, played pretty decently of late. What was it? T4, was that the PGA? Yeah, right. PGA Championship finished T4. Worth noting, right? Cam Davis too, right? Was also a player that played really well at the PGA Championship, right? Also finished T4. Both of those players, they got it done for different reasons at Oak Hill, right? They're really long off the tee, so that's why they didn't have to worry about the accuracy as much. I don't think they have to worry about the accuracy here, more so just because of how wide the fairways are, right? So it's a different track, different look off the tee, is going to play differently, but I think it's going to highlight a similar kind of skill set, which is why I like guys like Kirk Kirayama, right? Plays well in these difficult conditions. I do think that, right, Cam Davis, right, he's going to get some ownership. He's not going to be super chalky like Sahith or Ricky Fowler. Kirk Kirayama, probably going to be pretty chalky for this range too, right? He's one of the more notable guys, definitely one of the higher pedigree players down here in this range. And given the fact that he just had a top 5 finish in the PGA Championship, is likely going to get some deserving attention too. So keep in mind that these picks probably not the lowest owned, but at least in the case with the last 2, Cam Davis, Kirk Kirayama, you can play him in 15-20% of your lineups and get that leverage, right? Ricky, Sahith Theegala, you might have to be a little bit more aggressive with them, but hey, I really like the plays there in the 7K range, and I'll definitely be getting the leverage that we need. Alrighty guys, that is all I've got for the value plays video. Before you hopping out of here, go ahead, smash that like button, but also comment who you've got as your best value, $8,000 and below on Draftkings. We'd love to hear from you guys. Best of luck with those lineups, any outrights that you're firing on to. I'll be heading over to LA tomorrow, taking a look at the track on Wednesday for the practice round, and ready to bring you guys all the goods for the live stream. That, of course, will be going live Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern. It'll be 4 p.m. over there on Pacific time, which I'll be running off of at that point to bring you guys all the goods. We got a new laptop. There'll be no black screen of death for those while I'm on the road. It'll be all systems go, all ready to go for the year's 3rd major. So I'm super hyped for it. Cannot wait to get out there. Going to be one of the better weeks of the year for me, frankly. It's one thing going to tour events like down here in Florida, right? Even going up there for the Tour Championship. Just a special vibe when it comes to these major championships. We get to see all the world's best players together, and considering what happened with golf last week, it's kind of the perfect storm brewing. So comment down below, by the way, what you think of that merger, if you have any hot takes on it. I think it's a good step for golf to get all the best golfers together, right? What makes these major championships so special to me is being able to have the live golfers back, right? And I know for as much as people want to talk shit about some of the guys that went over, right, particularly the older guys not being skilled anymore, you still have absolute superstars over there that obviously, right, all the golf purists out there want to see playing, right, as particularly in the world's biggest events. So if we get them back, the live guys I'm talking about, right, back at the elevated fields, right, at all the major championships, I'm pretty stoked about that. But go ahead, let me know your hot takes down below as well, and I'll catch you guys for the live stream on Wednesday. Let's get after it. Let's have ourselves a week and make some money in the process.